Welcome into Seattle Seahawks Today. I am Tom Downey, and we're going to break down some rumors and news around the Seahawks, and we're going to kick things off with Russell Wilson, because if you're like me, you're still pretty pumped about the offense Seattle utilized. Namely, at long last, the Seahawks have let Russ cook, and it paid major dividends in Week 1 against an admittedly pretty bad Falcons pass defense because the corners are not very good. What I want to mention here in more detail, though, is the report from Pro Football Talk that not only was Russ the driving force behind these changes, but that he even threatened to try and leave Seattle if they were not going to allow him to fully cook and utilize his immense talents as a quarterback. Now, I'm not fully convinced that report is accurate. I think it might have been more of a, hey, look, if you're not going to utilize me, why are you paying me so much? Which I think is very accurate. And you couldn't have asked for much more in terms of efficiency and big plays and really just great quarterback play in the opening week than what Russell Wilson did against the Atlanta Falcons. 31 of 35, over 300 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So I don't really care too much if Wilson threatened Seattle to try and get out if they didn't let him use his immense gifts. It works. Seattle is right to finally allow Russell Wilson to start cooking. And as an example of that, the graphic you see here is from 2018, 19, and 20, the early down pass frequency. That big, thick arrow, that's Seattle's numbers. That little dotted arrow, that is simply the league average. All the way back in 2018, literally dead last in early down pass frequency, excluding third downs and excluding, garbage time and end of half scenarios. 2019, they were a little bit below league average. Based only on Week 1, of course, second most in the NFL. Folks, this is hardcore proof, if you didn't already need to see with your eyes, that Seattle is finally letting Russ cook. So you guys know what to do in the comment section. I want you guys to spam "Let Russ Cook" for me down there. And oh, by the way, while you're in the comment section, if you have questions for our upcoming mailbag, use hashtag Seahawks. That's just going to make it easier for me to find your questions and get them up on the show. So if you get the ad break here on YouTube, take advantage of that. Go type in hashtag Let Russ Cook and use hashtag Seahawks for your mailbag questions. Let's continue along with some more Russ Wilson talk here. Namely, is this the year that he can finally win NFL MVP? He's never even had a vote before, which still seems almost fake, but it is actually the case here. Now, our friends over at BetUS have put together some modified and updated, I should say, MVP odds after the opening week. Russell Wilson trending in the right direction at the current moment. Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers also going upwards. I kind of like Russ at plus 500. I don't think Mahomes or Lamar will repeat because, well, that's not how MVP voters typically operate. So I like Wilson's chances, provided, of course, they continue to allow him to cook at the quarterback spot. So I want to hear your guys' votes, though, too. Will Wilson actually win NFL MVP this year? If so, type 1 for yes or type 0 for no. Now, we'll see if the offense changes in Week 2. I don't think it's going to. Against the New England Patriots, Seattle is a 4-point favorite, which, for important note here, is the first time in 64 games the Patriots are not the betting favorite in an NFL regular season game. So I am immensely confident that Seattle is going to win this game. In fact, I have a special deal for only new BetUS customers. If you head over to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Seahawks125, if you bet on Seattle to cover the spread and the Seahawks don't cover, we'll Venmo you $50. That's how confident I am in Seattle beating the New England Patriots. I don't think that's good. They're that good. As a reminder, this is only available to new BetUS customers. And if you need some extra confidence in this bet, look, last week the Seahawks were a 1-point favorite. They easily covered that. They won by 13. Are they going by as much against the Patriots? Maybe not. But I feel very good about them beating New England in Week 2. All right, so we made a big deal. They're letting Russ cook. And then Bleacher Report comes here and goes, well, the Seahawks should use Chris Carson more. But should they? Look, I get it. Chris Carson didn't actually have that many touches. He and Carlos Hyde were really almost in a 50-50 timeshare. Travis Homer was also decently involved. If I am the Seattle Seahawks, why would I not utilize Russell Wilson's arm? I get it. 6 carries for Carson, 7 carries for Hyde. It's not very much. Pete Carroll says he wants to do more with those two on the ground. Don't go away from a good thing. Russell Wilson was nearly flawless in week 1. So if you want to give Chris Carson 8 carries and Carlos Hyde 4 in a similar scenario, sure, I can live with that. But he had 12 touches. I mean, if you want to bump it up to maybe 15 or 16, sure. Or if you're up big in the fourth quarter, you want to bleed out the clock, that works too. But the solution to the Seahawks offense is not, okay, we let Russ cook for a game, now we're going to run the football more. Please don't do that, Seattle. The solution is not to run it more. Continue to let Russ cook. If you agree with me, type in N, because Seattle should not run the ball more. If you want to bleed out the fourth quarter because you're up big, that's a different story. But being a run-first team, no. Don't go back to it. I'm typing in my N for no, but I want to hear your guys' votes as well. Good news for Seattle is there actually aren't very many injury updates to discuss on today's show. Rasheem Green was the only notable injury, and notables almost in quotation marks here. Pete Carroll said that Green had a pinch in his shoulder, which I'm not even really sure what that means, but there were some lingering effects after the game. But even though Green was listed as questionable to return, he actually did return. So I am, of course, mainly speculating here because, injuries can always change. I think Rasheem Green is going to be good to go for week 2. Worth monitoring? Absolutely. But I expect that Green's going to be fine. Could be a little bit limited, but he was already kind of in a timeshare rotation at one of the defensive end spots with L.J. Collier. Benson Mayowa played a lot for the Seattle Seahawks, as did Bruce Irvin as that linebacker-edge hybrid. If there is a concern, at least for me still, when it comes to the Seahawks team, it's the pass rush. I still don't have a ton of confidence in it, and I'm more inclined to blame all the yards that Seattle allowed through the air against the Atlanta Falcons on the pass rush compared to the secondary, which we will discuss here in just a second. So let me know in the comments how confident you are in this Seahawks pass rush. Rate this for me on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being you think they're just absolutely horrible. 10, they got the best pass rush in the NFL. Let's go down to Quinton Dunbar to wrap things up. He played the majority of the snaps for the Seattle Seahawks in week 1, which maybe isn't the world's biggest surprise, but I did want to discuss it because the secondary, they allowed a lot of yards. Again, I'm blaming the pass rush there. It's not just the corner's fault, but I think it's very clear. After Seattle listed Trey Flowers and Quinton Dunbar as in or on the pre-week 1 depth chart, the snap numbers speak for themselves. Quinton Dunbar is your cornerback 2, and Trey Flowers is your backup. He's going to be your CB3. If Dunbar is out for a series or 2, Flowers is the one who ends up going in. But the production was maybe not ideal. Flat numbers across the board here. 60% completion percentage allowed for Quinton Dunbar. 119 yards, did break up 1 pass. Trey Flowers only in on 10 snaps. Those numbers, I think, are very obvious in terms of what it means for the Seahawks secondary going forward. Quinton Dunbar is cornerback 2. Now, could he get benched at some point? Sure. I don't think he's going to because I'm not convinced Trey Flowers is all that great of an option either. But as of right now, Dunbar's cornerback 2, but that Seahawks defense, the pass defense, has to be a little bit better for them to be a true Super Bowl threat.